Hey guys, it's Tori, and today it's time for my Victober TBR. So for those who aren't aware, which I'm sure is not many of you, there is a readathon hosted in October by three lovely ladies, Kate Howe, Katie from Books and Things, and Lucy from Lucy the Reader, in which we are invited to read Victorian reads. So basically anything written, I believe it's between 1937 or 1837 and 1901, basically during the reign of Queen Victoria, and specifically their books or literature written in Wales, Scotland, Ireland, or England during that time. I look forward to this all year. It's by far my favorite readathon. I absolutely adore it, and I'm so excited for this year as well. The hosts have created 4 prompts and have chosen one group read that we will be reading, and I'm going to be basing my TBR pretty much solely around those prompts. Of the 4 prompts, I have 2 that I have very specific books I do want to get to that are actually applicable to my goals for 2021 as well. But for the other 2 prompts, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to read. I had a few ideas, but I wasn't certain on anything. So I decided to do my books to books TBR for those 2 prompts. So what I'm going to do, and you'll see that in a little bit, is 2 of my 3 rounds for books to books this month are going to be based on the prompt. So I'm going to set out all the options I have for one prompt and then the other for the second round. And I'm going to just pick another one of my green cards as kind of an additional prompt that will help me narrow it down. And then for my 3rd round of books to books this month, I'm going to be choosing a non-classic that will kind of act as a possible option in case I'm feeling burnt out on Victorian literature during October. So I purposely chose certain books or put certain books on top of my non-classics deck that are a little shorter so I can squeeze them in if I need to, but that will be pretty much lowest priority this month. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the group read and the 2 prompts that I know exactly what I'm going to read, and then we'll go into books to books, and then in the end I'll mention a couple books that I'm thinking of as possibilities for audiobooks I want to listen to during the month of Victober. So the group read for this year is Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell. This one is probably going to be pretty low priority for me. I would like to get to at least a couple of the stories just to kind of join in that way. But because I have quite a stack, as you will see throughout this video, and a lot of books that I really want to prioritize, I think this is going to take a little bit of a backseat, but I do want to at least get to 2 or 3 of the stories within this collection. Then starting into the prompts, the first prompt I'm going to mention is Katie from Books and Things prompt, and her prompt is to read a book set either in the countryside or in the city, and the book I chose I think kind of does both. But I'm not totally sure. I think part of it definitely takes place in the city, but this author is known for writing more countryside settings. So I'm not totally sure. If it doesn't work, I do have another option I will mention at the end of this video that I know takes place in the countryside, that I know I will probably finish in October because I've actually already started it. So that can cover this prompt if this one doesn't, but I am reading this one no matter what, and that is Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. This is my final Hardy novel that I have yet to read, so that's very exciting. I'm actually buddy reading this with Emily from Novelle Novels. As far as I know, this story follows a man named Jude who has big dreams, big expectations for himself and his life. However, things get in the way. Life gets in the way. He's not able to accomplish those goals. He ends up in a marriage where he's very unhappy and ends up living, I believe, with a woman that he does love out of wedlock. And I don't know much else about that. I know it's very tragic. I know Katie from Books and Things, this is her favorite Hardy novel, and I know Kate Howe read it earlier this year and hated it. So I'm not sure where I'll fall, but I am excited to finish off all of Hardy's novels, and I'm excited to buddy read this with Emily. The second prompt that I'm going to mention that I have a solid pick for, I believe, was the group decision prompt, and that was to read a popular book that you haven't read yet. And I'm going to stretch this a little bit because this book in particular isn't actually necessarily super popular, but the author is very popular, and by default it kind of makes this sort of a popular book, in particular because this author didn't write that many novels, so it's a lot easier for all of her works to be decently well known, if not super popular. So anyway, the book is The Professor by Charlotte Brontë. This is the final Brontë novel I have yet to read, so finishing off Hardy, finishing off the Brontes. Again, I know this is probably one of her least popular books, but I figure it's popular enough that I feel like, especially on BookTube, most people know about it. And Charlotte herself is a very popular author, so I'm going to just count it for the sake of this prompt. I believe this follows a man who ends up going to Brussels and he falls in love with a school teacher there, and I think there's another woman who also has an interest in him that he does not requite. Other than that, I know very little. I know this doesn't tend to be most people's favorite Brontë. In fact, it's pretty low down on most people's lists. So I don't have super high expectations, but I'm hoping, because it's so short, that it will at least keep me engaged, and even if I come out not really loving it, I will at least have read all of the Bronte's novels, and again, at least this isn't very long, so even if I don't like it, it shouldn't take me much time. It shouldn't take much time out of my life, and I'll be able to reach my goals that way. Okay, so now we move into the 2 prompts that I don't really know what I'm going to pick, starting with Lucy's prompt, which is to read a book with a female main character, so let's just get into the rounds for that. Okay, so we're going to start with the prompt that is to read a book with a female main character. And I have about 6 options that I would like to read or wouldn't mind reading. First of all, we have Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell, Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray, Cranford, also by Elizabeth Gaskell, A Group of Noble Dames by Thomas Hardy, The Daughters of Danaus by, I can't remember, Mona Caird, I believe is how you pronounce her name, and Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens. Okay, and then our prompt is parent pick. So I will be asking one of my parents to pick one of these, and because of the setup for this month, I'm actually just going to show you in my next clip what that ends up being. So I ended up asking my mom what she wanted out of those options, and she ended up choosing Vanity Fair by William Thackeray. Primarily she chose this, she said, because it was the only one she recognized the title of. Hey guys, Editing Tori here, and I just realized I did not mention anything about the readathon I've talked about doing with Vanity Fair. Now, I'm back and forth because a part of me, since I had my mom choose Vanity Fair, I feel like I should do that since it was part of my Books to Books. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I still do want to do that readathon with, or the read along with Vanity Fair and Gone with the Wind next year. And even if it doesn't end up happening, I want to keep it as a possibility. So I am going to mention right here, for those of you who remember me mentioning that and have been interested in it, I know a couple people have mentioned being interested in possibly participating in that. I don't want to let you guys down. So I'm going to mention here that even though my mom chose Vanity Fair and you saw me describe it and everything, I think I'm going to throw in right here that I may change my mind. In fact, in all likelihood, I will change my mind and just go with either Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, which will be another chunker, but it will be not Vanity Fair, since, again, I was thinking about doing a read-along of that, and I, for some reason, forgot about that idea, and I just remembered. So anyway, either that, or if I want a shorter one, I may pick up Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. So we'll see how things go. You'll be able to look at my vlogs and find out what I end up deciding, but I'm going to keep the clip about Vanity Fair in this just because I may still read that. But I'm going to mention these as other possibilities. If you want to do the Vanity Fair read along, if you're interested in me doing that, please let me know down below, because I'd like to get a little bit of a knowledge of who would be interested in doing that. It would be a read along, for those of you who don't know, it would be a read along of Vanity Fair and then Gone with the Wind right after. So if you're interested in that, please let me know so I can get an idea if there would be a decent amount of people that would want to do it. And if not, then I probably will just read Vanity Fair, but if there are people who want to do it, I'll read one of those too. Anyway, that's all I needed to say. I'm honestly really excited to read this. I know a lot of people who have DNF'd it, and I know a few people who really, really love it. So I'm very curious to see where I fall in my opinion on it. All I know about it is that it takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, and I know Becky Sharp, the main character, is a very manipulative and interesting heroine. So I'm really excited to give this a try. It is a huge chunker, so I'll probably break this up to read throughout the month of October because it's so long. But I am really excited to give it a try and see where my opinion lands. I think it will be interesting too to read this knowing nothing about Gone with the Wind. So if you don't know, Gone with the Wind is a retelling of this book. And I know a lot of people prefer Gone with the Wind over this one, but I know nothing about Gone with the Wind. I haven't seen the film. I don't know anything pretty much about the plot or anything. I know like the characters a little bit. I have a vague idea of what they're like, and I know it takes place in Civil War times. But other than that, I know nothing about it. So I think it will be interesting going into this, reading this first, and hopefully it will help me maybe enjoy it better than other people do. I don't know. Maybe not, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, then we're going to go with the prompt to read a sensation novel, and I have, I believe, around 6 or 7 for this one as well. First we have The Law and the Lady by Wilkie Collins, The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, Carmilla by, I can't remember his name, I think it's Sheridan Le Fanu, I believe, The Lancashire Witches by, and I can't remember this one, William Ainsworth, I believe, The Moonstone, also by Wilkie Collins, and this one's a little odd. It says Kidnapped, as in by Robert Louis Stevenson, but I just wrote this because I thought I have a collection of a few of his stories, and I thought Kidnapped was in there, but it's not. It's just a collection of other short stories as well as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So that's what this is representing, even though it's the wrong title. And my prompt for this one is lowest rated. Interesting. I am going to guess it's probably the Lancashire Witches, but I will double check. Okay, and then like I thought, for a sensation novel, which is the prompt created by Kate Howe, the lowest rated amongst my options was The Lancashire Witches by William Harrison Ainsworth. And I'm super excited about this. This is one that was kind of high on my list for what I wanted to read, what I was most wanting to read out of those options. I mean, I was okay with any of them, which is why I had all of them out, but this is one that, as time has gotten closer to Victober, I've really wanted to pick up. As far as I know, this follows clergymen who kind of go at each other, and one of them curses the other, and his descendants become witches. That's basically what I've gathered so far about this, and it's also based on a true story, so I'm very curious to see how this goes. I really don't know how it's gonna go. It could be a pretty tricky read. I've heard that the accents are kind of hard to read, so I'm not sure how that will go, but I am excited for this, and I really hope it ends up being, even if it's not a 5-star, I hope it ends up being a really enjoyable experience to read. Okay, and then this last one will be all about finding a book that I can read in between my Victorian reads if I end up feeling burnt out. So let's just pick 8 of my non-classics for this. First we have The Girl with the Pearl Earring, The Bear and the Nightingale, Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson, My Dark Vanessa, Red Rising, Sacred Hearts, Dragon Watch, and Pursuit, which is a thriller. Okay, I think I'm going to get rid of Red Rising just because I don't have much of a desire to read that right now. So instead, I'm going to grab Station 11. And our final prompt is random number generator. So I'm going to put these into a random number generator and I will let you know what comes out as the winner. Okay, and then for my non-classic possible break book, the book that came up on the random number generator was My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a story following a woman who, back earlier in her life, she had a relationship with her teacher, and to this day she kind of sees it as a romantic thing. She's not like with him anymore, but she has good memories. However, some accusations start coming out about this teacher, and so she has to kind of face her past and begin to see it in a new light and recognize the problematic aspects of her relationship with this teacher, and that maybe it wasn't as romantic as she thought it was. I've heard great things about it. It was actually the book last year that came out that I was most excited to read for a lot of the year, and I finally got a copy for Christmas, and for whatever reason I just haven't read it. I think it just hasn't come up on Books to Books, and obviously all the books I own I want to read, so I've just ended up reading other things, but I would love to get to this. However, I am going to prioritize Victober, so unless I get burnt out on Victorian literature, I may not even pick this up, but it will be an option if I end up, like I said, getting burnt out on Victorian literature and need something to kind of break up the classic reading experience that will be going on throughout the rest of the month. And the last couple books I want to mention are books that they're both rereads, and I definitely will be listening to them on audiobook. I might end up listening to Vanity Fair a little bit on audiobook as well, depending on how busy I am at certain points during the month. But these two are ones that I really would like to get to if possible, but they're not top priority. Although one of them I have started the audiobook for already, so chances are I probably will finish that one at least, but the other one I'm not sure. Anyway, the books are Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. I do want to reread this actually for a goal for 2021, so that would be great if I can get through this, and this is the one I've already started listening to, and I'm absolutely adoring it. And then additionally, I would also not mind getting to Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. So this one, mostly I am interested in possibly listening to the audiobook because there are several lovely ladies who are hosting a read-along of Wuthering Heights for this year. This isn't, definitely I'd prefer to finish Jane Eyre over this just because I did reread Wuthering Heights 2 Victobers ago, which it's been long enough that I'd be okay with rereading it again. But it's been soon enough, especially relative to when I finished Jane Eyre, and obviously all these books I haven't read yet. I think I'd rather prioritize those, but if I do get the chance to get to the audiobook for this and can participate in that read-along in that way, that would be really awesome. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. And like I said, actually, when I mentioned Jude the Obscure, Jane Eyre definitely takes place in the countryside. So if Jude the Obscure I find it doesn't really work for that prompt, like I said, we'll definitely finish this so this can count for that if necessary. But anyway, that is it. That is a huge pile of books, like way more than I usually read in a month, especially when I'm in school, and for sure more than I've ever read in a Victober. So I definitely probably won't get to all of those, and at least I won't finish all of those. I would love it if I could at least start all of them by the end of the month, but again, we'll just have to see what happens. But I'm really excited for Victober. Let me know if you're participating. Let me know down below what you're planning to read, as I would love to know if you've read any of these and your thoughts. Also would love to know that. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next week. Bye!